Hello and welcome to this special show on Rajya Sabha Television. I am Vishal Dahiya, and here we bring you all the details of India's fight against COVID-19, be it the drugs, the vaccines, or the other aspects of finding solutions to the challenges thrown at us by this particular pandemic. Now, in today's episode, we will not only take a look at the status of what exactly is happening with the vaccine development, but we'll also talk about the overall enabling ecosystem or mechanism or the infrastructure which is in place or needs to be put in place for vaccine development, not only for COVID-19, but for other future challenges like this as well. And for this, we have a very distinguished panel of guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Dr. Shahid Jameel. He is an Indian virologist and the CEO of Wellcome Trust DBT India Alliance. Also with us is Dr. S. a scientist from Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR. And we're also joined by Mr. Prasad, the President, Quality Operations of Bharat Biotech and Company, which is involved in developing a vaccine for COVID-19 at present. So let me begin the show, and let me begin by trying to understand and also give an update to our viewers in terms of the present status of vaccine development. Let's begin with you, Mr. Prasad, since your company has been involved with a particular vaccine being developed for COVID-19. Where are we in that particular aspect, and how much more time, just to start and make our viewers understand, where do we stand?
Sure. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. I apologize that I'm taking this interview from my car. We're all working hard in our facilities and we're on the way home. But unfortunately, this is the best I could do right now. We are working, we did meet about a month ago. I told you that we are working on 3 different vaccine candidates. Work is going really well. On one of the candidates, we've already have data in animal testing and animal safety and toxicology and immunogenicity data from animals. We are trying to do challenge studies in animals after this. And in 2 of the other candidates, we are already starting to do scale-up manufacturing right now so that we can first manufacture the vaccines at scale. So from our perspective, the work is going really well. I would say that we are probably about a week or a month away from clinical development, starting human clinical trials.
Okay. And that's really some good news out there. Dr. Jameel, your views on, since you keep a track on what's happening on other vaccine candidates as well, not only in India but elsewhere also. So according to you, where are we in terms of, having that vaccine being, commercially produced or okayed at least?
Well, at this time, there are more than 130 different candidates that are in the pipeline. 7 of these candidates are in phase 1 human trials, another 7 are in phase 2 trials, and 1 has moved into phase 3 trials. This is really remarkable speed, considering that the virus sequence first became available only in the first week of January, and we are now in the first week of June. So barely within 6 months, we have this status. Never before in human history has this been achieved. So from that point of view, it's really remarkable speed at which scientists and companies have worked. On the other hand, I think people need to understand that vaccine testing takes time because no one wants to deliver a product that is not efficacious or a product that is not safe. So a vaccine will not be available tomorrow, but possibly a vaccine may be available within the year. And even if that happens, that's really great.
Okay, it is indeed a complex and a time-taking process, and as you pointed out, it will take some time. But let's also take one status report from Dr. Das there as well from ICMR. Dr. Das, ICMR is also, in partnership with certain private companies to go ahead and, develop vaccines. So where are we on that aspect?
Okay, so yeah, thank you. Everybody knows that ICMR remains at the forefront of this fight against COVID, be it in terms of the capacity development for diagnostics or treatment guidelines and epidemiology epidemic tracking. Now, regarding vaccines, ICMR has candidates which are, in the I would say in rather advanced stage, at par with the rest of the world. So one is that the Oxford vaccine, which Serum Institute will be making in India. So that clinical trial, they are partnering with ICMR. And the other one is the vaccine that is an inactivated virus-based vaccine that will be ICMR. The virus was isolated at National Institute of Virology in May. And this is, we are collaborating with Bharat for upscaling and clinical trial. So, yeah, ICMR is very much in the business of vaccine development, trial. So
Okay.
that's the thing.
Okay. Let us now move to the most much important question here, and something which ensures that all these trials or all this work which has been done on vaccine does see the light of the day and is done successfully. Let me start with Mr. Sai Prasad. From an industry perspective, Mr. Prasad, since yours is one of the companies which is involved in developing a vaccine candidate on COVID-19, how easy or how difficult was it for you or your team to go ahead and work on that? And in terms of the infrastructure available, in terms of the policies which are there governing all these aspects?
So there are many perspectives to product development. So if you look at generic products and innovative products, you can split it up into two parts. If you want to develop a generic product in our country, whether it's a vaccine or a pharmaceutical, it's very, very much easier because the entire ecosystem is designed for it. But if you want to do innovation in our country, new products with an investigational new drug, then the ecosystem is not really that well designed. There are many, many things in our country when it comes to the ecosystem or environment or infrastructure or regulatory systems that have to improve. Even for a simple thing like import of animals in our country sometimes become very difficult when you want to import transgenic animals. So the regulators are working very, very hard. They're working day and night. ICMR, DBT, and many other organizations. We get all the way up to asking what is going on and what they need. But unfortunately, they are system policies very, very too tough. There's a lot of bureaucracy. This is something that we cannot do anything. As a country has to.
Okay.
Look. Thank you.
Okay, quite important aspect which you brought out. Let's go to Mr. Das, Dr. Das rather, before we go to Dr. Jameel. Dr. Das, from the ICMR's perspective, and since your organization, as you pointed out earlier, is involved in partnership with certain private companies. So how is the mechanism moving around? As Dr. Jameel said, from January to June, just 6 months, and these kind of results do indicate that yes, we are making a lot of fast progress. But is that enough, and what more needs to be done?
Okay, from ICMR's perspective, so first of all, there are some issues where ICMR can be really helpful because you know that ICMR is mainly involved with human research. So the one very important issue about new vaccines or any new product is an ethical issue, and particularly when it is being done kind of aiming speed. So in these ethical issues, ICMR is working on it to design the ethical guidelines so that things can move really fast, and we at the end we have a rather safe vaccine. And also, the ICMR is working with the DCGI, the regulatory aspect, that is very important. And another thing very important is that vaccine acceptability, because this is going to be a mass vaccine, and particularly giving the adult population as opposed to most vaccines which are given to children. So there is an issue of acceptability, and that has to be assessed properly. And then vaccine trial site preparation, where ICMR really has an edge over any other organization. So ICMR is all there to help the partners to get this ethical issues sorted, to get this clinical trial site prepared and see that really these things move at a very fast speed, so that by next year we have a vaccine to be given.
Okay, okay. Dr. Jameel, you spent a lot of time in terms of vaccine development, and COVID-19 is not the first big pandemic or a disease which you are dealing with in terms of developing vaccines. You told us earlier, in terms of MERS or SARS or Ebola as well. So, what's your lookout here in terms of the way we are moving ahead? Vis-a-vis development of vaccine? You said that speed is obviously an indicator from January to June, just 6 months, that yes, we are on the right path. But having an entire ecosystem, are we there yet?
If you're talking about the ecosystem in India, see, a vaccine or a therapeutic development pipeline has basically 3 stages. Those 3 stages, the first stage is the research and development, which world over, if you see, it is done in academic labs, in universities, in institutes. A lot of it is done in companies now, biotech companies. The second stage is that of scaling up manufacture, and the third stage is that of the regulatory stage, licensing. India has developed very good capacity for the second stage, which is the industry. Our generic pharma industry has really geared itself very well to producing vaccines. Our pharma industry is absolutely superb. I think the weak spots are the research and development in academic centers and the regulatory stage, and these are the two that we need to strengthen. Let me qualify this by saying that if you look at the development of the COVID vaccine, within 6 months you have more than 130 products in the pipeline. There is no product from India except the virus that was produced by NIV, isolated at NIV, which has not gone to Bharat Biotech. There isn't any in the global 130 pipeline that comes from India. Now, why is that the case? And if you see it clearly, this has been a success story of platforms. Who has moved clearly into the front? People who had platforms. Moderna had a mRNA platform, they moved. Codagenix had a codon deoptimization platform, they moved. The Oxford vaccine group had the the chimp adenovirus platform, they moved forward. Others had adenovirus 5, adenovirus 26 platform, they moved forward. Novavax has protein synthesis capability, they moved forward. So I think for the future, we really need to invest in platforms in the country. And once you have a platform going, you can basically, it becomes a plug and play kind of thing. You bring in the vaccine, once the sequence is available, today it becomes very easy to put together a vaccine. So that's one. The other, yes, like Dr. Das said, and as Sai Prasadji said also, our regulators are working very hard. Our regulatory system is really geared towards generics, towards biosimilars. Our regulatory system needs to scale itself up in its approach and thinking to also be ready for innovation. I'm sure we'll get there, but it's these two areas that really need to be strengthened.
Okay, definitely. And this is a learning curve as well. We're learning on every turn and twist around here. Mr. Prasad, your views on that, two aspects which Dr. Jameel brought out. One is research and development, not only in academic institutions, but industry as well, perhaps, and also the regulatory aspect of it.
Sure. We see a lot of research and development that is happening, both in academic centers and in industry. But what is a qualifying statement is, what is the end game or what is the end result of that research and development? Research and development just for the sake of getting a grant or just for the sake of publications is not useful anymore. We need to look at how it's going to serve humankind, how it's going to result in a product that will help our country and other countries around the world. So our own focus in our company has been to do that. So we do a lot of basic science research, we file a lot of patents, but when we do all that work, we always have the fundamental product in mind. What is the final end product in mind? What is the goal? So everything is geared towards that. So that is one concept. And we have proven that. We have done the vaccine that we have developed thanks to the DBT and Dr. M.K. Ban, which is Rotavac, which is now sold in India, and it's now sold in more than 10 different countries around India. Typhoid conjugate vaccine, we as a company developed it from scratch. So we are the first WHO pre-qualified typhoid conjugate vaccine in the world. And we were able to get SAGE recommendation from WHO based on our own research. In terms of the regulatory perspective, both for Rotavac and typhoid conjugate vaccine, the regulators were very supportive, and they were able to clarify a lot of the hurdles. But the issue is both these vaccines took us 10, 15, 20 years to develop. So today, if we have to do something for COVID, and if we have to do that in months rather than years, our regulatory system, we have a lot of checks and balances, with a lot of documentation, starting what we call as a test license and clinical trial permissions, preclinical toxicology, and there is something called an RCGM that is in the DBT, which is another ministry. There is something called the Genetic Engineering Committee, which is in another ministry called the Environment and Forest. If I need to import animals, I need to go to a third different ministry to get import permissions for animals. So there are many, many complicating factors where every different ministry has, part of the fork into product development, especially in pharmaceutical and vaccine product development. And that we as a country and we as a ecosystem have to look at it. Otherwise, the sustainable advantage that we have as vaccine companies in our country will disappear because other companies around the world are able to do this work much faster. To give you a simple example, we are wanting to import a transgenic animal from a foreign country. But the problem is it has to be kept in quarantine at one of our customs ports for more than 2 weeks. And you can imagine what will happen to our animals if we leave it in customs for 2 weeks. So these are the kind of things that we need to think through and solve it as a.
Okay. And what about the manufacturing aspect out there? Are you satisfied as an industry, guy that in terms of manufacturing, we are on the track where we need to be, as Dr. Jameel is pointing out?
I think in terms of manufacturing, there are two things that India and Indian companies in the ecosystem has mastered. One is, high volume, high capacity, large scale manufacturing, and also very high quality manufacturing. So I think both of these have been mastered, by Indian companies, but there is still room for us to get even more efficient and grow more in this area. But in terms of manufacturing at scale and at capacity at high qualities, I don't think Indian companies are second to none. We are on the top of the world, but we really need to focus on innovation and research. Our mindsets change.
So, Vishal, if I may add just one other point.
Yes, please, Dr. Jameel, I was coming to you only. Yes.
Yeah, so when I was talking about development of vaccines in academic centers, our whole granting system is really geared up towards 3-year grants. Vaccines are not developed on 3-year grants. I have seen very closely how Dr. Bhan developed the rotavirus vaccine. There was sustained support, not just from India, but other international funding agencies for 15, 20 years. At the institute I used to work earlier at ICGB, a malaria vaccine was developed, which Bharat Biotech actually manufactured for phase 1 trials. And I have seen how much it took to get it to that stage. It's not just doing research in the lab, but the kind of sustained support that was required. So that's what I was saying, that long-term sustained support for platforms has become very necessary for our ecosystem now. COVID is not the last big one that has hit us. There will be others. The question is, what lessons have we learned from here and how are we ready for it?
Definitely. Sustained long-term support there as well in terms of ensuring and a comprehensive and a holistic approach by all stakeholders also. Let me bring in, Dr. Das here. Dr. Das, your views on that research and development and innovation aspect in the institutes, academic institutes, and that's, a long-term sustained approach as Dr. Shahid and both Mr. Prasad are talking about.
Yeah, I fully agree with Jameel that we have a lot to do in the first and third stage, that research and development and the final stage of vaccine trial and getting into the market. So because it's not really very encouraging that out of 130 plus vaccines in the pipeline, India has none at this stage compared to the international standards. And as he has rightly pointed out, that if you see in the company, the international scenario, I mean, there were platforms prepared for other coronaviruses like SARS, CoV, and MERS, which finally, for the pandemic stopped and they were not utilized. So they were, immediately geared up for preparing vaccine for this particular pandemic. So, I mean, there has to be government has to really think over it, that how to make sustainable platforms, and I think industry also has a role here to play. So, like academia, industry working together, we can develop good platforms which we can use at the time of need. I think that's very important. So to focus on the research and innovation, I think will be the prime importance now, because the second stage is kind of more or less optimized. Companies are working on it, and they are regarded efficient as per international standard. So probably we should focus most. That should be the learning from this particular pandemic. Because see, if a vaccine is available tomorrow, and if it is prepared by a foreign company, we do not know how much it will cost for the Indian market. So that is a big issue. So at the end, maybe we will require an indigenous vaccine to be able to vaccinate a large population. So I think that is a very important point that he has forth, and we should really work on it to develop indigenous vaccines where we will be at the leading.
Okay, wonderful out there. Let's have concluding comments from both Mr. Prasad and Dr. Shahid. Let's begin with you, Mr. Prasad, in terms of summing up the way forward from here onwards, because as Dr. Shahid said, COVID-19 is not the last one.
Yeah, COVID-19 is not the last one. We need to have a lot of lessons that we learned from this experience. How we are able to crunch timelines without sacrificing quality and safety, how our regulators are responding. If I get time after this pandemic, I would actually write a brief note on how fast many of our regulators are responding with the requests that we have and the guidance that they're giving us, which is really reassuring.
And that'll be wonderful. We would love to read that aspect.
Yes, this spirit has to continue more, but we really need to develop that ecosystem. And there is a lot of talk about platforms. The only reason why we are able to receive the strains from the ICMR and NI and plug and play immediately is because we have platforms available at Bharat Biotech. We have a Virologist manufacturing. We've manufactured 7 or 8 different vaccines. Now we're manufacturing 2 different or even 3 different COVID vaccines using the same platform. And we can use different strategies for that. That's how it's.
Okay, wonderful out there. Dr. Shahid?
Well, I'm confident that if there is a vaccine that is made for the world, which is affordable and of high quality, it will have to be made in India. There is no other way out. And it is companies like Bharat, Serum, Zydus Cadila, BioE, they are the ones who will put out a vaccine which will be affordable and of high quality for the world. I'm very confident of that, and we are very proud of what these Indian companies are doing.
Okay. There it is. Thank you so much, Dr. Shahid, Mr. Prasad, and Dr. Das there, as well as our panelists have pointed out. Development of vaccine is a complex and a time-taking process, and Indian researchers, scientists, and the companies involved in manufacturing of vaccines do have it in them to ensure that a high quality and an affordable vaccine is developed. But to have, or rather improve this entire ecosystem of development of vaccines further, there are certain points which need to be worked upon in terms of research, development, innovation, and also ensuring long-term support for the development of vaccines or sustained support for the platforms as well. Thank you once again for watching this show. We'll come back again tomorrow with a different topic. Till then, you keep watching Rajya Sabha television, and also don't forget to follow all the norms with respect to social distancing, and don't forget to put on a face mask every time you step out of your house. Thank you.